David Mercer entered his penthouse at 6:15 p.m., removed his coat, and hung it on the third hook from the left. The briefcase went beside the hall table. Same spot. Wednesday. The routine protected him from decisions. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed Manhattan at dusk, lights starting to flicker on across the skyline. His apartment stayed dim. Only one lamp in the living room. He preferred it this way. Less to see, less to be seen. He opened his laptop and navigated to a private spreadsheet titled Reconciliation Q3. Blue screen glow reflected in the window behind him, creating a second, ghostly version of himself in the glass. 4.2M this quarter. Children's hospitals, 18 donations. Homeless shelters, 22. Legal aid clinics, 9. He scrolled slowly, checking each line item, calculating the percentage increase from Q2. 14%. Good. He'd increase pediatric funding by 12% next quarter, maybe 15. If sins had weight, good deeds must have mass. The equation should balance eventually. The intercom buzzed at 6:38 p.m. He pressed the release button without speaking into it, waited by the elevator in the hallway. Carpet thick enough to muffle footsteps, sconce lighting every 8 feet. The delivery person appeared, young man, early 20s, avoiding eye contact. "Have a good night," the young man said, extending the bag. David nodded, no words. He'd already tipped electronically. He took the bag and closed the door before the delivery person reached the elevator. In the kitchen, he unpacked the container onto a real plate. White ceramic, not paper, metal fork. He sat at the dining table positioned to face the window, not the television. The table seated 8. He always sat in the same chair. The other 7 chairs remained perfectly aligned, untouched. Sesame chicken, no vegetables, same order every Wednesday. He chewed 17 times per bite. Studies showed better digestion. Studies showed a lot of things. He wiped his mouth between every third bite, folded the napkin in half when finished. The meal took 18 minutes. When he removed the trash, he noticed handwriting on the paper bag. "Hope you're okay." His hand tightened. They didn't know. They wrote these things to strangers. Anonymous kindness cost nothing. It meant nothing. He crumpled the bag harder than necessary and threw it away. Washed his hands twice. The soap smelled like nothing. Unscented, hypoallergenic, chosen specifically for its absence of character. At 8:47 p.m., he returned to his laptop and opened his phone contacts, scrolled to the Ds. 3 names: Daniel Morgan, Derek Cho, Diana Ashford, his son, his former business partner, his attorney. Daniel's number hadn't changed in 6 years. He checked every month. The cursor hovered over the name. 17 seconds. His thumb moved to the call button. Stopped. Moved away. He closed the window. What would he say? "I'm sorry" felt insufficient. "I was wrong" felt incomplete. "I'm trying" felt like a lie. He was trying. Trying to balance a ledger that refused to balance. Trying to donate away the weight of a phone call he never returned. A graduation he missed. A door he closed and never reopened. Temporary, he'd told himself 18 years ago when he chose the board meeting over the art show. Temporary, when he sent the check instead of attending graduation. Temporary had been 6 years of silence. He closed the laptop, washed the plate, dried it, returned it to the cabinet, second shelf left side. The apartment went dark except for ambient city light through the windows. Tomorrow, review Q4 allocation. Increase pediatric funding, 12%, 15 would be better. He stood at the window, hands in pockets, watching traffic 23 floors below. Cars moved in patterns, red lights, green lights, turn signals blinking like Morse code spelling nothing. Headlights swept across buildings. Somewhere down there, people were going home. To someone. He'd stopped keeping track of people years ago. Only numbers stayed. The city hummed. His apartment stayed silent. This was Wednesday. Tomorrow would be Thursday. The pattern would repeat. It always did. He turned away from the window and walked to his bedroom. The bed was made with hospital corners, tight, perfect, untouched since the cleaning service left that morning. He didn't disturb the covers. Instead, he sat on the edge, shoes still on, and looked at his hands, his father's hands. The same long fingers, the same way of clasping them together when thinking. His father had died 10 years ago without saying much of anything. They'd shaken hands at the funeral. Professional, appropriate. David stood, removed his shoes, placed them in the closet, left shoe first, then right, toes facing out. He changed into sleep clothes, hung his suit on the valet stand. Everything in its place. He lay down in the dark and stared at the ceiling. Sleep would come eventually. It always did. Another day would follow, then another. The math would continue. Donations would accumulate. The spreadsheet would grow. Somewhere in Connecticut, his son was probably finishing dinner, maybe with friends, maybe alone. David didn't know. He'd made sure of that when he stopped calling. When he stopped asking. When he decided that absence was safer than the risk of being told to stay away. The apartment was quiet. 23 floors above the city, insulated from noise, temperature controlled, security protected. Everything he'd worked for. Everything he'd earned, everything he had, everything he'd kept, nothing he needed. Thursday, 4:15 p.m. David walked 3 blocks from the subway station, briefcase in hand, collar up against the September wind. Temperature 61 degrees. Overcast. Leaves starting to brown at the edges. He approached Metropolitan General Hospital, the same one that received $340,000 in March for their pediatric wing. 3rd floor, 42 beds, he'd never been inside. He never entered the buildings he funded. Seeing them from the outside was sufficient. Seeing where the money went felt too much like wanting something back. The boy had been on the front steps 3 days now, Tuesday, Wednesday, today, small for his age, maybe 8 years old, sitting cross-legged with a cardboard folder held together with masking tape. Drawings visible through the opening, stick figures, houses, flowers drawn with too many petals. Do you want to buy a picture? David stopped. Didn't turn fully toward the boy's voice. Higher than expected, not pushy, just asking. I drew them myself. No, David said. They're only $2. No. David started walking. 5 steps passed. Then the question that made him stop mid-stride. Why does someone with so much money still eat alone? David's foot hung in the air for half a second before completing the step. He didn't turn. Traffic noise surrounded them. Horns, engines, a siren 3 blocks away. A pigeon landed near the boy's folder, pecked at nothing, flew away. I eat alone too sometimes, the boy added. Not accusing, curious. How does he know? The coat. Probably the coat. Italian wool, tailored. The watch visible when he checked the time. The way he walked, purpose without destination. Rich people moved differently. They had places to be, but never looked like they were running late. David turned slightly. Saw the boy clearly for the first time. Brown jacket too big for his frame, sleeves rolled back twice, sneakers with frayed laces. Dark hair that needed cutting, hanging over his eyes until he pushed it back with one hand. He held a drawing of a flower, red crayon, 6 petals, a green stem that curved left. The boy wasn't staring expectantly, just waiting, patient, like someone used to waiting. No one had asked David why in 20 years. They'd asked how much. How much could he donate? How much would it take? How much was he worth? But why? Why do you eat alone? Why do you walk past every day? Why do you stop now? 11 seconds of eye contact. The boy didn't look away, didn't smile, just held the flower drawing and waited. David turned and walked away, faster than his usual pace. His hand tightened on the briefcase handle, jaw clenched. The boy didn't know anything. Random question from a child selling drawings outside a hospital. Meaningless. He reached the corner, 43rd and Lexington. The light turned green. He didn't cross. The light cycled to red. Cars passed. People moved around him. He stood still. The boy's voice carried from half a block away. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. You won't, David thought. I'll take a different route. There are 6 ways to get to the subway from here. I'll use a different one. The light turned green again. He crossed on the 3rd cycle, didn't look back. But his pace stayed slower than usual, like his body was arguing with his mind about which direction to actually go. At home that night, he ate the same dinner, opened the same spreadsheet, stared at the same 3 names in his contacts. But when he closed his eyes, he saw the flower drawing, 6 petals, red crayon, and he heard the question he couldn't answer. Why does someone with so much money still eat alone? Friday, 3:45 p.m. David exited the subway 1 stop early, added 4 blocks to his route. Different streets. Different buildings? Simple causality, different path means different outcome. He turned onto 44th Street. The hospital was still visible. The boy was still there. The boy wasn't following him. The boy was just present. Fixed point. David was the variable. The realization settled in his chest like a stone. He approached from a different angle. The boy didn't notice him immediately. 3 new drawings laid out on the steps. A car, a tree, a house with 4 windows. The boy hummed quietly, erasing something on the car drawing. The sound was unconscious, comfortable. He wasn't performing for anyone. You came back, the boy said, looking up. David stiffened. I'm just passing. Okay. The boy returned to his drawing. He didn't correct David. Didn't pursue the topic, just accepted the words and continued working. The car drawing needed wheels. The boy added them carefully, bottom lip caught between teeth. David had coffee in his hand. Bought it before arriving. Friday routine. Steam rose from the cup. He held it in both hands, warming his palms, even though the day wasn't cold. The boy was going to ask for money, or food. This was the setup. This was how it always worked. He stood 12 feet away, didn't sit, drank his coffee slowly. 4 minutes of silence. The boy drew. David watched pedestrians pass. A nurse exited the hospital, checked her phone, walked toward the bus stop. An elderly man moved with a walker. A woman carried flowers wrapped in plastic. The boy never asked for anything. Saturday morning, David arrived at 10:20 a.m., earlier than yesterday. He'd told himself it was for different reasons. Needed to walk, get air, change his routine. The reasons didn't matter. His feet brought him here. Overcast sky, rain threatening but not falling. Fewer people on the streets, Saturday morning quiet. The boy was already there, drawing with intense concentration, tongue between teeth, shoulders hunched forward, entire focus on the paper. "Why are you here every day?" David asked. He stopped directly in front of the steps. The boy looked up. "Matter of fact, my grandma's inside. Takes a long time. I wait." "How long?" "Usually 3 hours, sometimes 4. 3 hours minimum. 4 times a week. 12 hours of sitting on cold steps, waiting for an adult who was somewhere inside, dealing with something the boy wasn't old enough to understand or help with." The boy slid a drawing toward David. A bird, blue crayon, wings mid-flight. The paper was slightly damp from humidity, corners curled. "You can have it," the boy said. I made too many anyway." David's hand hovered over the drawing. 8 seconds. The paper sat between them. The boy had already started a new drawing. A sun this time, with straight lines radiating out like the sun was exploding. David walked away, didn't take it. 20 steps. He heard paper rustling behind him. Wind picking up, the drawing would blow away. Would end up in the gutter or stuck against a fence. If I take it, it means something. If I leave it, it means something else. He stopped, counted to 5, turned around. The drawing was still there, one corner lifting in the breeze. He walked back, bent down, picked it up, folded it once, twice, put it in his coat pocket. Inside left, against his chest. The boy glanced up, small smile, returns to the exploding sun. David walked away, hand in his pocket, touching the folded paper. The texture was rough, cheap paper, crayon wax left residue on his fingers. He didn't throw it away, he didn't know why he came back. Only that he did. Monday, 10:05 a.m., earlier than Saturday. The pattern was accelerating without his permission. David arrived at the hospital entrance. Morning shift change, nurses coming and going, visitors arriving with balloons and stuffed animals and tired faces. The boy looked up. "You're early." Yes." "Do you want to sit?" 3 seconds of hesitation. Then David sat on the step. First time. 18 inches from the boy. Close enough to smell crayons and cardboard and something sweet, maybe juice, maybe candy. "Okay," the boy said. He didn't make it a big moment. Just went back to drawing. 15 minutes of silence. The boy drew a flower, orange this time, 8 petals, green stem bending right instead of left. Tongue between teeth, complete concentration. David held his coffee, watched people. An ambulance arrived, sirens off, backing into the emergency bay. An elderly couple exited holding hands, moving in synchronized steps like they'd been walking together for 50 years. A delivery truck idled across the street. When was the last time he sat with another person like this? No agenda, no meeting, no transaction. He couldn't remember. Inside the hospital, behind glass doors, a security guard watched them. Marcus, 50s, steady presence. He'd been there all 3 days. Now he turned to a nurse passing by. "You seen this before?" Marcus asked. The nurse stopped. "Elena, pediatric unit. She'd been here yesterday, too." She looked through the glass at the man and boy sitting in silence. 3 days now," Elena said. "Guy hasn't tried to go inside. Kid doesn't ask for anything." Marcus shifted his weight. "Should I say something?" Elena watched longer. The man drank coffee. The boy drew. Nothing happening, but something was happening. She just didn't know what yet. "Not yet," she said. Outside, the boy offered another drawing. A tree, green and brown, leaves falling. David took it without hesitation this time. 4 drawings, 4 days. Pattern recognition was automatic for him. Variables becoming constants, outliers becoming data points. He folded the tree drawing and added it to his pocket. The other 3 were already there. He adjusted them so they sat flat, corners aligned. "You keep them all?" the boy asked. David paused. "Yes. That's nice." The hospital doors opened. Elena came out. She wore scrubs, blue with white trim, ID badge clipped to her pocket, coffee from the cafeteria in hand. She approached during her break. "You okay out here?" she asked the boy. "Yeah, this is David." Elena looked at David, neutral expression, assessing. "Hi." David stood awkwardly. "Hello." "Your grandma said 1 more hour," Elena told the boy. "Okay." Elena looked at David again, not hostile, not friendly, just looking. Then she turned and went back inside. David watched her walk through the glass doors, saw her speak to Marcus. Both of them glanced toward the steps. Marcus nodded. Elena said something else. They didn't approach, didn't interfere, just witnessed. "Elena's nice," the boy said. "She always tells me when Grandma's almost done." David sat back down. Through the glass, Marcus and Elena stood together, watching, not with suspicion, with curiosity. With the slow recognition that something unusual was happening, and unusual wasn't automatically dangerous, David drank his coffee. It had gone cold. He didn't mind. The boy finished the flower drawing and started another one. A cat this time. Black crayon. Whiskers too long. Tail curled into a question mark. "I like cats," the boy said. Not to David specifically, just announcing it. The way children announce things. "Do you have one?" David asked. The words surprised him. He hadn't meant to ask. "No, Grandma's allergic, but I see them sometimes. Outside." "Outside where?" "Everywhere. Behind buildings, in alleys. They hide good." The boy added eyes to the cat. 2 circles, perfectly round. Then he drew a smaller cat beside the first one. "That's the baby," the boy explained. David nodded. Marcus and Elena had stopped watching. They'd returned to their routines. David wasn't a threat. The boy wasn't in danger. Sometimes people just sat together. Sometimes that was all it was. 4 drawings in his pocket, 4 days of sitting, 4 mornings of choosing to come here instead of anywhere else. He'd stopped pretending it was random. Tuesday, 4:40 p.m. Later than usual. David and the boy had been sitting 20 minutes already. Golden hour light, temperature cooling, 59 degrees. The boy drew a house with windows. Added curtains to each window. Small details that didn't advance the drawing but made it feel lived in. David drank his coffee. Cold now. He'd been holding it too long. He watched people, checked his watch. Not anxiously, just habit. This was the 5th day. 5 consecutive days of choosing to be here. The hospital doors opened. A woman exited. Early 60s, black, tired. She wore teal scrubs under a gray jacket, ID badge clipped to her pocket, canvas bag over one shoulder. She stopped immediately. Her grandson sat on the steps with a stranger. A man in an expensive coat drinking coffee. Too close. Too comfortable. "Grandma!" The boy stood, waved. David stood immediately. Automatic response, respect. The kind drilled into him as a child. Stand when an elder enters the room. The 3 of them formed a triangle on the steps, 6 feet apart. The woman's eyes moved from David to the boy, back to David. Reading, calculating, not panicked, just careful. "Grandma, this is..." The boy paused, realized something. "I don't know your name." "David," he said, to the boy first, then to the woman. "David." "Grace," she said, measured, even tone. David didn't extend his hand. He didn't know the protocol. Was shaking hands appropriate? Too formal, not formal enough? Grace's bag strap slipped. She adjusted it, winced slightly, shoulder pain. The kind that came from carrying things too long, standing too much, sleeping wrong because the bed was cheap and the mattress was old. "Get your things," Grace said to the boy. The boy packed quickly, zipped his folder. The sound was loud in the quiet. Grace looked at David. "He bother you?" "No." "You bothering him?" "No." Grace nodded once, started to turn, took 3 steps. Stopped. She was deciding something. David could see it, the way her shoulders tensed, the way she adjusted her bag again, even though it didn't need adjusting. She turned back, looked at David directly. "We'll be here Thursday." David, surprised. "Okay." "See you Thursday, David," the boy called, waving. They walked toward the bus stop, the boy's hand in Grace's. She held it firmly. Protective. Not pulling, just connected. David watched them wait. The bus stop was visible from the steps. They stood together. Grace checked her phone. The boy swung his folder, hitting his own leg rhythmically. Not hard, just movement for movement's sake. The M15 arrived. They boarded. The bus pulled away from the curb, merged into traffic, disappeared at the light. Grace didn't forbid it. That wasn't permission. But it wasn't rejection either. David sat back down, alone now. The steps felt colder without the boy beside him. His coffee was empty. He should leave, go home, eat dinner, open the spreadsheet, check the numbers. But he sat for another 7 minutes, watching people, holding an empty cup, touching the drawings in his pocket. Thursday, Grace had said. Thursday. He would be here Thursday. Wednesday, 10:15 a.m. The boy wasn't there. David stood at the bottom of the steps, looked up at the spot where the boy usually sat. Empty. The hospital entrance bustled with activity. Outpatient appointments, morning shift change, someone wheeling flowers in a cart. Doctor's appointment, Grace had mentioned yesterday. That's why. Regular checkup. The boy would be inside somewhere, sitting on an examination table, waiting for a nurse. David sat on the steps anyway, first time sitting when the boy wasn't there. 5 minutes passed. He removed the bird drawing from his pocket, unfolded it carefully. The paper had creases from repeated folding, blue crayon slightly smudged from his fingers touching it, wings mid-flight, frozen, never landing, never falling, suspended. A woman exited the hospital carrying a child's art project. Painted handprint pressed onto construction paper, red and yellow. The child must have been young. The handprint was small. Memory arrived uninvited. 18 years ago, Connecticut. His former house. Large, isolated, the kind of house that said success but felt empty. Late afternoon. He'd been in his home office, spreadsheets open, conference call scheduled in 20 minutes. Daniel climbing stairs, 9 years old, small for his age, carrying something wrapped in newspaper. Dad? David didn't look up. Yes. Can you come to the art show Thursday? I have a board meeting. It's only an hour, 6 to 7. I'll try. Daniel stood in the doorway. 8 seconds of silence. Okay. He left the clay sculpture on the desk corner. Never unwrapped it. David saw the shape through the newspaper. Rounded, about the size of a fist. Probably a bird. Daniel liked birds. David didn't go to the art show. Didn't call, didn't explain. The board meeting ran late. That was true. But it didn't start until 7:30. He could have gone. He chose not to. Years collapsed. High school graduation. Daniel at 18. David in Singapore. Client dinner. His ex-wife called. He wanted you here. I sent a gift. He didn't want a gift. He'd sent a check, $50,000. College fund increase. Money was clearer than presents. Money had value. Presents was just presents. What was he supposed to do? Sit in the audience and watch his son walk across a stage? Take photos? Pretend they had a relationship worth celebrating? 6 years ago, Daniel at 22, last phone call. I don't need your money. I needed you. I was building something. For who? David didn't answer. Couldn't answer. He'd been building a company. An empire. A legacy. Numbers that grew and compounded and proved he was worth something. Don't call me again unless you have an answer, Daniel said. The line went dead. David never called back. Told himself it was temporary. His son was angry. Young people were angry. Give it time, space. Eventually, Daniel would understand. Would see that David had been providing. Security, future. All the things his own father never provided. Temporary became 1 year, then 2, then 6. David sat on the hospital steps holding the bird drawing. 28 minutes had passed. People moved around him. The city operated. Life continued. Footsteps on the sidewalk. Running. Small feet. You're still here! The boy appeared, breathless, backpack bouncing. His jacket was unzipped, hair messy. David folded the drawing quickly. Stood. Yes. I thought you might leave. No. The boy sat. Pulled out fresh paper. Started drawing immediately. A cat this time. Whiskers first, then the face around them. David sat beside him, hand in his pocket. Touching all 5 drawings now. The memory was still present, still heavy. But the boy was real. The steps were solid. The coffee he'd bought was warm in his hand. He'd stayed. That was different. That had to count for something. Thursday, 3:50 p.m. David and the boy had been sitting 30 minutes, but the boy was quieter than usual. 2 drawings started, both abandoned. More erasing than drawing. His pencil hovered over paper without landing. David noticed. He'd learned the boy's patterns. The humming when focused, the tongue between teeth when concentrating, the way his shoulders relaxed when a drawing was going well. Today, tension. Are you all right? David asked. The boy looked up, surprised by the question. Yeah. Silence for 12 seconds. The boy set his pencil down. Can I ask you something? David's posture stiffened. He knew a request was coming. This was always coming. He'd been waiting for it. Strangers didn't sit together for free. Everyone wanted something eventually. My grandma's hours got cut at work. I'm sorry. We might move. Closer to my aunt. She lives far. How far? 2 hours. Maybe I can't come here as much. The boy didn't look at David while speaking. He focused on his abandoned drawing. A house with 3 windows. Unfinished. An ambulance siren wailed 3 blocks away. A dog barked across the street. David's hand tightened on his knee. Do you... The boy's voice quieter now. Do you know anyone who needs drawings? I could sell more. Help Grandma? 8 seconds of silence. It's okay if you don't. David's hand moved toward his coat pocket, where his wallet was. $5,000 would fix this. $10,000 would be safer. A year of rent. Buffer for medical bills. He could write the check tonight. Anonymous donation. Mail it. No return address. His hand stopped. Returned to his lap. If I give money, this becomes a transaction. Another ledger entry. Another donation to balance against guilt I can't name. Another way to prove I'm good without actually being present. But a child is asking for help. A child sitting beside me for 5 days, offering drawings I didn't pay for, waiting in the cold, while his grandmother gets hours cut because the economy is cruel and healthcare doesn't pay and systems fail people who work themselves exhausted. And I'm saying no? 22 seconds of silence. The boy kept drawing, added a door to the house, a tree beside it. I can't help with that, David said. His voice strained. Wrong. The words felt wrong leaving his mouth. The boy looked up, confused but not hurt. Okay. I'm sorry. It's okay. I just thought maybe if I give you money, David interrupted, desperate to explain. This stops being real. The boy tilted his head. Real? How do you explain this to an 8-year-old? How do you say, I've spent 6 years trying to buy forgiveness from a son who doesn't want my money. I've donated millions to erase guilt that keeps growing. Every check I write proves I can solve problems without being present. And if I write you a check, this becomes another line in my spreadsheet, another transaction, another proof that I can fix everything except myself. Yes, David said. Real. The boy shrugged. Small smile. Okay. He went back to drawing. 7 minutes passed. The boy finished the tree. Added leaves, green crayon, small circles covering the branches. He hummed. The same unconscious hum from before, like nothing had changed. Why wasn't he angry? David just refused to help a child whose grandmother lost income. Refused to solve a problem he could solve by lifting one finger, writing one check, making one phone call. But the boy kept drawing, kept humming, kept sitting beside him. The boy finished the tree, slid the drawing toward David. You can have this one. You don't have to, I know. David's hand shook slightly as he took the drawing, folded it, added it to his pocket with the others. 6 now, 6 days. 6 rejections of the transactional world he'd built his life around. The hospital doors opened. Grace exited early. Her shift shortened. This confirmed the hours cut David had just refused to help with. She walked over, saw them sitting in tense silence, put her hand on the boy's shoulder. Thank you for sitting with him, she said to David. David couldn't speak. He shook his head. No. Don't thank me, I just said no. I just refuse to help when I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Don't thank me. No, really, thank you. The boy waved. Bye, David. They walked toward the bus stop. Grace's hand on the boy's shoulder, the boy's backpack bouncing, their shapes getting smaller. David sat alone, drawing in hand, wallet in pocket, untouched. He didn't deserve gratitude, but he'd taken it anyway. Friday, 4:20 p.m. David and the boy sat on the steps. The temperature had dropped overnight, 52 degrees. Wind gusting. October settling in cold and gray. The boy pulled his jacket tighter. Hands tucked into sleeves, still drawing, but slower. His fingers must be cold. This was his last week. After Tuesday they moved. 2 hours away, checkups once a month. This was almost over. It's cold today, David said. The boy nodded. Yeah, Grandma said maybe it'll snow soon. In October? The boy shrugged. She's usually right. 25 minutes of sitting. The boy set down his crayon, rubbed his hands together. Do you want to come inside? He asked. The cafeteria's warmer. David froze. They have coffee and hot chocolate. 15 years. 15 years of funding hospitals and never entering one, never seeing where the money went. Never witnessing the fluorescent lights, or the smell of antiseptic, or the families waiting, or the children being pushed in wheelchairs or any of it. Just numbers on a spreadsheet. Clean, distant, safe. You don't have to, the boy said. Just thought. He trailed off. What was David afraid of? Seeing suffering? Seeing his donations as insufficient? Seeing that money couldn't fix what was actually broken? Or seeing that the buildings kept running with or without him? That his contributions were drops in an ocean? That he was never as necessary as he needed to be? David stood, nodded once. They walked toward the entrance. Automatic doors slid open. Institutional smell hit immediately. Antiseptic, floor cleaner, something cooking in the cafeteria. The boy walked confidently. Familiar territory. David followed. Elevator. The boy pressed B for basement. Muzak played. Fluorescent lights hummed. Posted signs. Visiting hours. Hand sanitizer. Patient rights. The cafeteria was half full. 4:45 p.m. Post-lunch, pre-dinner, round tables, plastic chairs. Vending machines, humming. TV on mute showing news. The boy got hot chocolate from the dispenser. David got coffee. Paid cash, not card. Anonymous habit. They sat at a small table near the window overlooking the parking lot. 2 minutes of silence. The boy blew on his hot chocolate, took careful sips. David drank his coffee. Too hot. He set it down. The boy pulled out fresh paper, started drawing. Even here. Always drawing. Background noise. Staff on break. Someone's phone ringing. The coffee machine gurgling. David watched. Families at other tables. A woman crying quietly in the corner. A man reading a newspaper. A child in a wheelchair, being pushed by a parent, both of them smiling at something. This is where the money goes. Not to a building, to these people. Why did you keep coming back? The boy asked. 13 seconds. David looked out the window instead of at the boy. Cars in the parking lot. Trees with leaves falling. Sky gray and heavy. I don't know, David said. The boy accepted this. Okay. Silence. I'm glad you did. David's throat tightened. He couldn't speak, just nodded. They sat. The boy drew. David drank coffee that was still too hot. The cafeteria operated around them, mundane, ordinary, real. The elevator opened. Grace appeared, scanned the cafeteria, saw them, paused. She walked over slowly. Still in scrubs, ID badge, hair pulled back, she looked less exhausted than Tuesday. Or maybe just resigned to the exhaustion. "You brought him inside?" Grace asked the boy. The boy nodded. "It was cold." Grace looked at David. "This a friend?" The boy answered before David could. "Yes." Grace extended her hand. Formal. "I'm Grace, properly." David stood, shook her hand. "David." She sat. Didn't get anything to drink, just sat and looked at him. Not suspicious, curious. Like she was finally allowing herself to wonder who this man was. "We moved Tuesday." "I know. We'll be back for checkups. Once a month." "I'll be here." Grace studied his face. The boy kept drawing. The PA system announced visiting hours ending at 6 p.m. "First Wednesday," Grace said, "and every month." "I'll be here," David repeated. She nodded. Checked her phone. Bus times. The three of them sat at the table. Boy drawing, Grace checking her schedule. David drinking coffee slowly, making it last, extending the moment because he didn't know how many moments he had left. Monday morning, 9:40 a.m., David arrived earlier than ever, carrying something visible, a cardboard tray with 3 coffee cups. The boy was already there with Grace. They'd come early, final appointment before the move tomorrow. The boy saw David approaching and waved. Stood up. Grace was sitting with him. First time she'd been outside waiting. She looked up as David approached. He extended the tray. "I didn't know how you take your coffee." Grace took it, surprised. "Black is fine, thank you." The boy took the hot chocolate. "You brought 3? "Yes." They sat on the steps, 3 people, drinking in silence. The boy drew. A new picture, different from the others. David watched traffic. Grace checked her phone. 4 minutes of quiet, comfortable quiet, the kind that didn't need filling. The boy finished his drawing, held it up. 3 stick figures on steps, 1 small, 1 medium, 1 tall, simple, no detail, just presence. "Can you keep this?" the boy asked. David, confused. "It's yours. Can you keep this?" Understanding arrived. "Yes. All of them. You can keep all of them." David took the drawing with both hands, carefully, like it mattered, because it did. "Thank you," David said, his voice tight. Grace checked her watch. Appointment in 15 minutes. "What do we call you?" she asked. David paused. Didn't understand at first. "When we come back, what should we call you?" Another pause. 5 seconds. "David," the boy laughed. "We already call you David." "I know," David said quietly, to the boy. Just David, not David Mercer. Not Mr. Mercer, not the David Mercer whose company went public in 2015, whose net worth was documented, whose donations made tax records. Just David, the name his son used to say. Grace nodded. She didn't ask for a last name. Didn't ask what he did. Just accepted this. "We're 2 hours away," Grace said. "But we'll be back for checkups." When?" "First Wednesday of every month." "I'll be here," Grace smiled. Small. "I believe you." The boy stood. Hugged David suddenly. Quick. Child awkward. Arms around waist. David stiffened in surprise. Then carefully put one hand on the boy's shoulder. He didn't know how to hug back, but he tried. 3 seconds. The boy released. Ran to Grace. Grace lingered. 1 more moment. "He doesn't do that for everyone." David couldn't speak. Just nodded. "Thank you," Grace said. "For staying." She didn't wait for a response. Took the boy's hand. They entered the hospital. Automatic doors closed behind them. Reflections disappeared. David sat alone on the steps. Same spot. 7 minutes. Traffic continued. People passed. The hospital operated. The world was unchanged. But he was different. First Wednesday. He'd be here. He took out his phone. Scrolled to contacts. Opened Daniel Morgan. Typed, "I'm sorry. I don't know if you'll answer, but I'm here if you want to talk." Cursor hovering over send. He didn't press it yet. Instead, he took out the final drawing. 3 stick figures. Unfolded it carefully. Studied it. 3 people sitting together. That's all it was. That's all it needed to be. He folded it again. Placed it in his pocket with the other 6. 7 drawings. 7 days. 7 times he chose presence over absence. He put the phone away. Message still unsent, but typed. That was progress. He stood, walked toward the subway, hand in pocket, touching the folded drawings. The boy had given them freely. Grace had said thank you. They would come back first Wednesday, and David would be here. Not because he'd earned it, not because he'd bought it, not because a spreadsheet said he deserved it, just because he'd stayed. Redemption wasn't earned. It was given freely and received.